Hello, Home Slices. It's Kara with Home Slice Adulting coming to you with my review for the reunion, season 10 reunion part one of Real Housewives of Atlanta. Um, I was thoroughly entertained. I actually have something to do very shortly, so I figured I would come to you guys live again and just tell you guys what I thought about the episode. I'm probably going to be reading straight from my notes just so this review isn't extra long. But I hope everybody's having a really great Monday today. And let's get started. I know typically people get started with the fashions, but because I'm running a little behind today and short on time, I'll cover that during the next episode. Regarding the fashion. So we start off and we have like the pre-reunion glam sessions. Andy talks to Tyrone and Tyrone says that Nene was aggressively stalking him. And then Andy's messy behind goes over to Nene and he's like, oh, I talked to Tyrone. And Nene says, oh, really? I'm sure it wasn't in person. I thought that was freaking hilarious. But they all exchange quick pleasantries. They're at the very beginning of the episode, very beginning of the reunion. They talk about they shade Sheba Sheree. Kandi talks about her, stint on Broadway. Portia claims that she is the goddess of love. Nene is called Elder Leaks. We see 51 Cent. And Kenya finally admits that she will be welcoming a boy or girl later this year. Now, something was a little off to me, because she did not say that I am pregnant. She said we'll be welcoming a child later this year. Something about the way she said it was kind of off to me, but we'll take her word for it. Kenya is pregnant with a boy or a girl, and she didn't really want to say anything because we know at Kenya's age, it's very difficult for her or any woman to have a baby and carry the baby to term. So, we completely understand her not necessarily wanting to say anything, but, it's all good. As much shade as we have all thrown about Kenya not having a man or a baby, we are all happy for her. Marriage looks good on Kenya and it has appeared to change her for the better. We'll see how long that lasts. But the only person who was not super excited for Kenya was Sheree, and I don't understand that, but whatever. Moving on, they go through like a history of the different confessional looks of all the ladies over the previous seasons, and they get to see how everyone has kind of changed. And so Andy asks what happened to Sheba Sheree, and all Sheree says is joggers. Like, what? She had no explanation. What she should have said was, I have changed the idea or transitioned from, formal wear or whatever Sheba Sheree was classified as, and turn those into casual wear / joggers. But then Kandi was as confused as we were because all she said was joggers. And so Kandi tried to get Sheree to clarify, and then Sheree caught an attitude with her. And we didn't kind of understand that. But, when you fail at Sheba Sheree for like 10 years now, it could be a sore spot. But anyways, so she says that basically she is turning Sheba Sheree into an athletic / lifestyle brand. And it will probably be coming in September of 2022. the same time that Tyrone gets out. But she says September for spring or summer. Since when is September in the spring or the summer? She don't make no sense. She full of crap. But somebody brought up how Kim wore wigs and how, that's all Nene wears these days. And Nene cracked everybody up when she said that Kim wears Party City wigs. Yeah, everybody got a kick out of that. Next, we talk about Kandi. So Andy keeps referring to what Kandi went through last season, and I'm like, yo, Portia is sitting right there. But as much as I would like for the ladies to kind of leave that whole situation in the past, Portia just has to sit there and take it. And so Andy asked, why invite Portia places if you're just going to shade her the whole time, which is something that we have all been asking. But anyways, Kandi claimed that she just wanted everyone to see the cover of Essence because she was very proud of it. But Portia had a point when she said Kandi singled Portia out about, showing her what real winning looks like. And Kandi talks about how the accusations that Portia had against her last season could have hurt her brand, and how she's happy that she has been able to recover from that and elevate her brand despite the accusations, and that the change in their relationship is not going to happen overnight. Now, Portia talks about all the apologies she gave, and apparently she has apologized to Kandi more than the times that we have seen on camera. Now, she talks about how she gave Kandi space, and as selfish as I think Portia can be in a friendship, I'm kind of on her side with this thing, because I don't think that there's anything more that Portia could really do to apologize. And if there is something more that Portia can do, then Kandi needs to be more specific about that. We'll talk about that some more. But Portia says that she took responsibility for everything that she said, but Kandi wants Portia to admit that she went below the belt during an argument, and that's why she said what she said. I kind of don't see the difference between Portia saying, I take responsibility for everything I said, as opposed to saying, I went below the belt in the argument. If she went below the belt with her words and she apologized for her words, like, what's the difference? So I feel like the thing with me is, in order to shut Kandi up, I definitely would have apologized the way Kandi would have wanted me to apologize. I just think Portia is tired of being called to the carpet by 2011 people for something that she basically only did to one person. If I were Portia, I just would have taken accountability in that situation the way Kandi would have wanted me to, because when you give a person what they want from you or what they've been asking from you, they really can't say anything anymore. If Portia would have said, you know what, I went below the belt in that situation and I am sorry, I said that to hurt you and it turned your life upside down and I 100% take responsibility for that, then Kandi wouldn't have had nothing else to say during the next season of Real Housewives, during the next reunion. She wouldn't have anything to say because you apologized to her the way she asked to be apologized to. So, but Portia was just kind of over it, and I don't necessarily blame her for that. But moving on, they kind of go back and forth, and she calls Kandi a victim. I think we have all felt that Kandi can have a very victim-like mentality sometimes, and that causes her to really hold grudges against people. But moving on, Nene says that she wanted them to make up, and that when you apologize, you're supposed to have some kind of action behind it. And Portia is like, well, what kind of action would that be? And Nene doesn't have any idea. And it's like, if you want somebody to apologize and have action behind it, you have to be able to tell them what kind of action that is. I don't understand necessarily what that means, because I guess Portia's version of action is giving Kandi space to kind of recover from it, not jumping down Kandi's throat about trying to get back in communication or going out to dinner or anything like that. So I just think that this whole situation needs to be over with. But they talk about Mama Joyce meeting up with Portia, and Kandi was more upset about the lemons to lemonade comment that Mama Joyce made about Todd than she was about her meeting up with Portia. And she also didn't like it when somebody called her mama sour. So that's just regular Kandi trying to defend her mama. And apparently they're getting another OLG location. So next, Marlo joins the stage in a huge fairy godmother dress. But before she arrives on the stage, she says something like Portia is copying her. I don't understand what that means, but moving on. They talk about Marlo's relationship with Kenya. And Kenya says, you know, their relationship was real. It was not a place taker, since Kenya and Nene weren't getting along. But Kenya says they crossed the point of no return when Marlo made the comment about Kenya's mom not wanting her. And I'm 100% with Kenya on that. Like, that was a very nasty comment. And yeah, I wouldn't mess with Marlo after that either. Now, moving on, Marlo says that Kenya is a good actress, and then they start going back and forth, exchanging insults. They talk about bad skin. They talk about her acting resume, sleeping with married men. And then they talk about John. If y'all remember, John is the guy who was wooing Nene when she was separated from Greg. Kenya says that Marlo took pictures of text messages between John and Nene while John was in Marlo's house drunk. And that Kenya was shown those pictures by Marlo. Now, Nene didn't seem to care that Marlo and John got together because apparently Marlo and John got together after Nene had remarried Greg. The issue for me, however, is not the timeline. It's the problem that Marlo took these pictures as ammunition to use against Nene. And I think that's more of what Nene needs to be concerned about, not that Marlo was getting her leftovers. But Marlo was acting like $20,000 is nothing. And for her to act like $20,000 is nothing is like, what do you do? What job do you have that gets you so much money that you don't care about $20,000? You know, I would love to have $20,000. And I wouldn't spend it on Neiman Marcus. Oh, come on. Moving on. Kenya says that Marlo has a square reader between her legs. That wasn't her best read. But finally, somebody corrects Marlo and Nene for saying bun instead of bond. Marlo and Sheree's relationship comes into question, and Marlo just doesn't like that Sheree doesn't tell Kim when she's wrong. So moving on, we talk about Kenya and Kenya's marriage. And Kenya played the Tamar Braxton card when it came to her talking about other people's marriages. And she claims that she didn't realize that she had to be sensitive to other people's marriages until she got married. And Portia said, go back and change it if she could. But then Kenya starts talking about how Portia was saying things about her being single. And it's like, what the heck are you talking about, Kenya? Portia was not being mean or being shady towards Kenya. She was just telling her that it's unfair of you to expect us to not have anything to say about your husband when you talked about all of our husbands and ex-husbands so poorly before. But let's be honest. Portia has been Kenya's punching bag ever since they came on the show together was that the 5th season they came on the show together? So Kenya and Portia have gone blow for blow the whole time. So Kenya, I feel like she shouldn't feel like she's the victim when it comes to Portia saying anything about her being single. But moving on, producer Andy comes out and says that it's weird that Kenya's on a show about her life and didn't want to share her marriage with the cameras. Kenya claims that Mark wanted to elope, and that's what they did. Now, Kenya hasn't even met Mark's parents in person. And that's so weird. If Kenya is indeed pregnant, and I believe that she is, you're having the grandchild of Mark's parents and you have never met them in person. She gave the excuse that they live in a different state, but so does Mark. So if you can fly to see your husband, why can't you fly to have a family dinner with your new in-laws? It's very weird. I think the dynamics of people getting married at a later stage in their life, in their 40s or 50s, are very different from the dynamics of somebody getting married in their 20s or 30s, when people typically get married. But I still think that it's weird that they have been together for at least a year now and nobody has, she hasn't met the in-laws. So that's very strange to me. But moving on, Portia asks why Kenya didn't tell Cynthia. Kenya says that Cynthia can't hold water, and Portia says what we were all thinking. The fact that you actually think that about Cynthia is very indicative of what you think about y'all's friendship. And Kenya is always trying to shut Portia down, but Portia had a point this time. I'm really sick of Kenya treating Portia like she is the silly little girl that she was back when she was first on the show. Portia has matured, so has, all of the other women. But, people kind of backed Portia up. Like, nobody feels as if Cynthia cannot hold water. It's not like she's Sheree, carrying bones or whatnot. But poor Cynthia seemed like she was hurt by that. And she was upset that Kenya felt that Cynthia would even tell anybody something that was so important to Kenya. And so Kenya gets egg on her face when he recounts something that Mark told his colleagues about Real Housewives of Atlanta being a poor representation of Black women. And I thought that was very interesting. Kenya says that Mark has never watched the show, so how would he know that it is a poor representation of Black women? Can he glean that from just the commercials or whatever? And I think that it's a good thing that he hasn't watched the show, because if he had watched the show previously and developed any type of opinion on Kenya's behavior, they probably wouldn't be married now. Just saying. But moving on, they talk about the nose ring, which is total nonsense. I did have an opinion on him having a nose ring, but for me, it was because of his age and not so much his the fact that he was a man. Like, he's probably 50 years old, and he said he got it 2 years ago. Like, what is a 48-year-old man doing getting a nose ring? That's weird, but it doesn't say anything about his character or anything. I just think it's odd. Now, moving on, Marlo was the only one who raised her hand when she said that she did not believe Kenya's marriage was real at first. I don't think everybody was being honest. I think Nene should have definitely raised her hand. Sheree probably should have raised her hand as well. I just think that they didn't want to say that now that they have actually met Mark. But moving on, they talk about the PSA. I think Kenya was stretching it when she said that people claimed that it was the best episode of the franchise. And and Kenya, to me, is just trying not to get fired by recounting some of her, best contributions to the franchise. But Andy asks who will be the next person on the cast to get married. And, they bring up Sheree, maybe since she has already been talking about getting married. And Kenya asks if she'll get married in prison. And I just thought that was so funny. That was hilarious. Portia says that she's claiming marriage this year and that she is currently in a relationship. I kind of hope it's with Ricky Smiley, but I kind of doubt that it's with Ricky Smiley as well. But Kenya told her, not to rush anything, even though she got married in 7 months. Now, next we talk about Portia. This is the last thing that we're going to talk about. They talk about Nina and Portia falling out, and it really was not a big deal. Candy wants to know what she did that made Portia cross the line, because Portia was talking about how even though Nene and her were not in the best agreement and didn't get past the point of no return. And Candy wanted to know why it had to be her that Portia crossed that line with. And Portia kind of had a point where she said Candy wouldn't have a one-on-one conversation with Portia in order for them to make up. And I do think that that's something that kind of needs to happen. But there may just be too much water under the bridge, and asking Portia and Candy to be friends right now is just not plausible. But moving on, Nene was still arguing about semantics, but she received what Portia had to say. And I'm like, Nene has really matured. Because, Nene will argue somebody down and go back and forth with them all day long or whatever. And the fact that she received that Portia was hurt by the comments that she made on Watch What Happens Live was a sign of growth. Now, moving on, they talk about the don't trust anyone, especially Sheree comment. And now Portia says what we were all thinking. Sheree is the self-professed bone collector, so maybe you shouldn't trust her. Like, was she saying anything that was out of line? Now, Sheree says that she doesn't trust Portia. And so Andy was like, well, why are you mad? Like, why are you mad that Portia said not to trust you when you don't trust Portia? But Sheree has been more open and willing to be there for Portia when the other girls have kind of all taken Candy's side. So I can understand why Sheree was mad. But I think that Sheree blew things out of proportion. It's not as if Sheree and Portia have been super good friends that Portia could call and hang out with and rely on and talk about her issues with. I mean, it's not like Sheree and Portia had a relationship like Shamia and Portia had. So for Sheree to get so mad, to me, it was as if she was using this as a way to try to get back on the show for next season so that she could have a beef with somebody to prolong her, storyline on the show. And too bad that didn't work, because Sheree is fired. Good riddance, thank goodness. Has it been confirmed, y'all? I've just heard a lot of stuff about Sheree not coming back to the show. And I just really hope it's true, because I can't stand Sheree, particularly during this episode of the reunion. But moving on, apparently, Portia called and apologized to Sheree, but Sheree feels like Portia is kind of negating that apology now, because Portia is talking about her feelings on the situation. So I think Portia feels like she's talking about her feelings on the situation, but Sheree feels that Portia didn't mean her apology because she had such negative feelings about it. And I don't necessarily believe that that's true, but everybody is entitled to their own opinion. They called it like a backhanded apology. And it's like, if I'm expressing my feelings about how I felt in that moment, it doesn't mean that I did not mean my apology, right? But moving on, they bring up how Sheree is not accountable to Kim or something, or loyal only to Kim. And Portia throws Sheree under the bus and starts recounting all the times that Sheree has not called Kim to the carpet about her bad behavior, nor has she given Nene a heads up about that video with roaches or bugs. And Sheree claims that she is the bone collector to hold the girls accountable, except Kim Zolciak, apparently. And so Sheree says that no one has been loyal to her and no one has called her with the bone. I don't necessarily know what that means, but Nene and Cynthia claim that they have called her with the bone. So, okay. But Sheree and Nene start getting into a pissing contest about the things that they've done for each other. And Sheree was like, well, I helped Nene get into this, this, and that, and football game tickets, and is mistaking that for loyalty, I suppose. And now that I think about it, I don't think Sheree really knows how to be a friend either. That's very weird. But moving on, Sheree is a discriminate bone carrier. I think that we would all respect Sheree more if she were to carry bones in all directions. But her bone carrying is only going in one direction. Only in a situation where it serves her. Only going towards Kim. So the fact that she is a discriminate bone carrier is a problem for me, and I'm so happy she will not be returning. I hope that rumor is true. But moving on, that is the end, and Kim Zolciak is about to come out on stage, and we'll see what happens next time. Do you all know how many parts of the reunion there will be? Because I do not. For whoever is out there watching, thank you so much for continuing to watch this video. I rarely have people who stick around in my lives. But next time on Real Housewives of Atlanta, we talk about Cynthia and how she doesn't know people. We talk about what Marlo actually does for a living. That's very interesting. We talk about Will's supposed girlfriend, and we see Eva come out onto the stage all in her pregnancy glow. And Nene and Kim will never be friends again. So thank you guys for watching. I'm excited to see the rest of the reunion. It's so weird that since this has been pretty much a crappy season, how the reunion is actually kind of exciting. I actually enjoyed watching it this time around. And usually the first parts of the reunion are super boring. But thank you guys for watching. And don't forget to come back next week for my review on Real Housewives of Atlanta, the reunion part 2. Also throughout the week, I will be reviewing The Last OG, Braxton Family Values, and Iyanla Fix My Life. Thank you guys for watching. Peace out, home slice.